The message came through every communication channel at once. Every screen on Earth, every monitor in the orbital stations, every display in the distant colonies showed the same thing. The Galactic Council was speaking, and they expected everyone to listen. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stood in the United Earth Command Center, watching the 3 alien faces fill the massive screen. They looked down at him with what he had learned to recognize as contempt. 50 years of dealing with these creatures had taught him their expressions well. Humanity has been granted a great honor, the lead counselor said. Its voice came through the translator as cold and flat. You were welcomed into the galactic community despite your primitive nature. Despite your violence, despite your chaos. Hyunwoo felt his jaw tighten. He had heard this speech before. Different words, same meaning. Humans were lesser beings. Humans needed to be controlled. But you have abused our generosity, the alien continued. Your colonies expand without permission. Your military grows without oversight. Your people refuse to follow council regulations. Admiral Minji Choi stood beside Hyunwoo. She was a small woman, barely reaching his shoulder, but she commanded the entire Earth Defense Fleet. Her face remained perfectly calm as she listened. Only her hands clasped tightly behind her back showed any tension. Therefore, the Council has decided, the alien said. Earth will surrender complete control of all colony worlds to Council administration. Your military will be reduced to defense forces only, under Council supervision. You will accept Council observers in all government functions. You have 48 hours to agree. The screen went dark. Silence filled the command center for a long moment. Hundreds of officers and staff stood frozen, staring at the empty screen. They're insane, someone whispered. Hyunwoo turned to face Admiral Minji. What do you think? She looked at him with dark, steady eyes. I think they've finally done it. They've pushed too far. Captain Jahoon Park stood at his station near the back of the room. He was young for a fleet captain, only 35, but he had earned his command through skill and courage. He stepped forward now, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. Admiral, the outer colonies are already requesting orders. They want to know if they should evacuate. Minji shook her head slowly. No evacuation, not yet. Get me a secure line to all colony governors, and someone find General Do-hyun. Within minutes, the command center buzzed with activity. Hyunwoo watched as Earth's leadership gathered, either in person or through secure video links. General Do-hyun Shin appeared on screen, his weathered face serious. He commanded the Colonial Defense Forces, the soldiers who protected humanity's scattered settlements across dozens of worlds. I've been expecting this, Do-hyun said bluntly. The Council has been testing us for months, inspecting our ships, questioning our trade routes, demanding access to our research facilities. They've been building up to something. The question is what we do about it, said Dr. Yoonji Lee. She had just arrived in the command center, still wearing her lab coat. As head of Earth's Weapons Research Division, she understood the military situation better than most generals. The president of United Earth appeared on the central screen. She looked tired. Options, she said simply. Give them to me, Hyunwoo spoke first. It was his job, after all. We could negotiate. Try to find a compromise. With what? Minji's voice was sharp. They're not offering negotiation. They're demanding surrender. There's a difference. We could accept their terms, someone suggested quietly, at least temporarily. Buy time to prepare. No. The word came from Do-hyun, firm and absolute. If we show weakness now, they'll never stop. First our colonies, then our military, then our independence. Where does it end? Yoonji moved to the central display, pulling up charts and diagrams. I need to tell you all something. Something we've been keeping secret. All eyes turned to her. For the past 10 years, we've been studying Council technology. Every piece of equipment they've sold us, every ship component, every weapon system. We've been taking them apart and learning how they work. She tapped the screen, showing detailed schematics. Their technology is advanced, yes, but it's old. Unchanged for centuries. They've grown comfortable, overconfident. We've found weaknesses. Jahoon leaned forward, studying the displays. What kind of weaknesses? Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, but they're vulnerable to kinetic strikes. Their ships are large and powerful, but slow to maneuver. Their tactics are rigid, predictable. They haven't fought a real war in thousands of years. And we have? Someone asked. Yoonji smiled grimly. We're human. We've never stopped fighting. We know war in our bones. The president looked around the room. Let me be clear about what we're discussing. If we refuse the Council's ultimatum, they will attack. They have thousands of ships. We have hundreds. Numbers aren't everything, Minji said quietly. They've ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. The president continued. They've never been successfully defied. Then we'll be the first, Hyunwoo said. The words surprised even him. He was a diplomat trained to find peaceful solutions. But there came a time when peace was no longer possible. When the only choice was to stand or kneel, the president studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Draft the response, Ambassador. Make it clear. Make it strong. Make them understand that humanity will not surrender. The next 12 hours passed in a blur. Hyunwoo worked with a team of linguists and diplomats, crafting Earth's official reply. Every word was chosen carefully. Every phrase was considered. The message had to be unmistakable. When it was finished, Hyunwoo read it aloud to the assembled leadership. To the Galactic Council, humanity rejects your ultimatum. We reject your authority over our colonies. We reject your claim to supervise our military. We reject your observers and your oversight. Earth is sovereign. Our colonies are sovereign. We will not surrender our freedom to anyone for any reason. Do not mistake our past patience for weakness. Do not mistake our diplomatic efforts for fear. If you choose to attack us, you will learn what humanity is truly capable of. This is our final word. We will not negotiate. Silence followed his words. Send it, the president said. The message went out on all channels, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Within hours, responses began flooding back. Most were from other species, shocked that anyone would dare speak to the Council this way. Some were supportive, secretly pleased to see the mighty Council challenged. Others warned of the consequences. The Council itself responded within 6 hours. Their message was brief. You have chosen war. Admiral Minji immediately issued orders. All Earth Defense Fleet vessels were to move into defensive positions. All colony militias were to activate. All diplomatic personnel were to evacuate Council space immediately. Captain Jihoon Park stood on the bridge of his ship, the Indomitable, watching Earth grow smaller in the view screen as the fleet moved into formation. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. They knew what was coming. Captain, his tactical officer called out. We're receiving movement reports from Council space. Multiple fleets are mobilizing. Jihoon nodded. How long until they reach our borders? Best estimate? 3 days. 3 days to prepare for a war that could end humanity. 3 days before everything changed. Jihoon thought about his family back on Earth. His parents, his sister, his nephew who was only 5 years old. He thought about all the people across Earth and the colonies going about their lives not knowing that their future hung by a thread. But he also thought about freedom. About dignity. About refusing to kneel. All hands, he said into the ship-wide communication system. This is the captain. You've all heard the news by now. The Council is coming. They expect us to surrender or die. They think we're weak. They think we'll break. He paused, looking at the Earth behind them, the world that had birthed humanity and sent them to the stars. They're wrong. We're going to show them what humans are made of. We're going to show them that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Around the bridge, his crew straightened in their seats. Determination replaced fear on their faces. The war was coming. But humanity was ready. Councillor Thexnall moved through the great chamber with slow, deliberate steps. Its species, the Vreni, had held positions of power in the Galactic Council for 6,000 years. They were masters of politics, experts in control. Nothing in the galaxy happened without their knowledge. Until now. Impossible, Thexnall said, its voice echoing in the vast space. No species has ever refused a Council ultimatum, not in 10,000 years. Around the circular chamber, other councillors gathered, representatives of a dozen species, all ancient and powerful. They had ruled the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to be challenged. Councillor Yalmara stood near the war displays. The Korthan warrior looked like a predator, all sharp edges and cold eyes. It was the commander of the Council's enforcement fleet, the military arm that kept order across the galaxy. The humans are young and stupid, Yalmara said. They have been in space for barely 200 years. They know nothing of galactic politics, nothing of real power. Then why do they defy us? Asked another councillor. Yalmara made a sound like grinding metal. Its species' version of laughter. Because they are children playing at being adults. They think their primitive weapons and small fleet make them strong. They need to be taught a lesson. Thexnell studied the war displays. Earth's military strength was shown in glowing symbols. 400 ships in total. Most were small vessels, escort craft, and patrol boats. Only about 50 were proper warships. By comparison, the Council enforcement fleet numbered over 3,000 ships. Many were massive dreadnoughts, vessels so large they could destroy a planet's surface from orbit. A demonstration should suffice, Thexnell decided. We do not need to destroy them, just hurt them enough to make them understand. Which colony? Yalmara asked. Tyran. It's on their frontier, lightly defended. We take it quickly, show them our power. They will see reason. Yalmara nodded. I will take 300 ships. The colony will fall in hours. Make it bloodless if possible, Thexnell said. We want them humbled, not martyred. Let the humans see that resistance is pointless. While the Council planned, Agent Sora Kung sat in a small cafe on Nexus Prime, the massive station that served as the Council's headquarters. She looked like any other visitor, just another human tourist seeing the wonders of galactic civilization. But Sora was not a tourist. She was Earth Intelligence's best operative, and she had been embedded in Council space for 3 years. Her communicator vibrated softly. She glanced at it, reading the coded message. The Council was mobilizing 300 ships. Target, Terran colony. Estimated arrival, 36 hours. Sora felt her pulse quicken. Terran was home to 15,000 colonists, families, children. If the Council attacked, many would die. She paid for her drink and left the cafe, walking casually through the crowded corridors of Nexus Prime. Her apartment was nearby, a small unit she had rented under a false identity. Inside, she activated her secure communication system. Control, this is Shadow. I have critical intel. The response came immediately. General Do-Hyun Shin's face appeared on her screen. Go ahead, Shadow. Sora provided all the details. Fleet composition, expected route, estimated arrival time. Do-Hyun listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with each piece of information. Good work, he said when she finished. Get out if you can. This is about to get dangerous. Negative, sir. I'm more valuable here. If war comes, you'll need eyes inside Council space. Do-Hyun nodded slowly. Be careful, Agent. And thank you. The screen went dark. Sora allowed herself a moment to breathe deeply, to let the fear and tension flow through her and away. Then she began preparing her next report. On Earth, Dr. Yoonji Lee stood in a massive underground facility. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked on projects that the Council knew nothing about. For 10 years, Earth had been preparing for this moment. Every piece of Council technology they could acquire had been studied, taken apart, and improved. Human engineers had found flaws the Council had never bothered to fix. Human scientists had developed new weapons based on old ideas the Council had abandoned as primitive. Status report, Yoonji said to her lead engineer. Daehyun was young but brilliant. He had graduated at the top of his class and immediately joined the Weapons Research Division. Now he pulled up holographic displays showing rows of missiles, railguns, and explosive devices. The kinetic penetrators are ready. Each one can punch through Council shield technology like it's not even there. We have enough to equip every ship in the fleet. Nuclear arsenal? Stockpiled and ready. The Council banned nuclear weapons 3,000 years ago. They called them barbaric. Their ships have no radiation shielding. Yoonji smiled coldly. One species' barbarism is another species' advantage. What about the fighter craft? All squadrons are equipped with the new missiles. Small, fast, and deadly. The Council hasn't used fighter-scale craft in centuries. They won't know how to counter them. Because they think they're above such tactics, Yoonji said. They've forgotten that war isn't about honor or tradition. It's about winning. She moved to another section of the facility. where massive cannons were being installed on hidden platforms. And the colony defenses? Being deployed as we speak, Doctor. The Council thinks Terran is lightly defended. They're going to get a nasty surprise. General Do-hyun Shin stood in the operations center beneath Terran colony's main settlement. Around him, soldiers and engineers worked frantically to complete the preparations. The colonists didn't know what was coming. Do-hyun had kept it quiet to avoid panic, but his people knew. His soldiers understood that in 36 hours the Council would arrive expecting an easy victory. "Sir, the last weapons platform is in position," reported one of his officers. Do-hyun studied the tactical display. Terran colony orbited a large gas giant. The system was full of asteroids, debris, and radiation that made sensor readings difficult. Perfect for hiding things. Over the past year, Earth had secretly installed dozens of weapons platforms throughout the system. They looked like asteroids or old mining equipment. The Council would never see them until it was too late. What about the fleet? Captain Ji-hoon is en route with 47 ships. He'll arrive 6 hours before the Council fleet. 47 ships against 300. The numbers look terrible. But numbers didn't tell the whole story. "Make sure all personnel know the plan," Do-hyun said. "The Council expects us to either run away or surrender. We're going to do neither." Admiral Min-ji Choi stood on the bridge of her flagship watching the tactical displays. She had spent the last 36 hours moving ships into position, coordinating with General Do-hyun, and preparing for what would be the most important battle in human history. "Admiral, incoming message from Captain Ji-hoon," her communications officer reported. Ji-hoon's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral, my fleet has arrived at Terran. We're taking up defensive positions as planned." "How are your people holding up?" Min-ji asked. "Nervous but ready. They know what's at stake. Remember, Captain, this isn't about winning a glorious victory. It's about teaching the Council a lesson they'll never forget." "Yes, ma'am. We'll make them pay for every meter of space." Min-ji ended the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Estimated time until the Council arrives?" 4 hours, 30 minutes. 4.5 hours until everything changed. 4.5 hours until humanity proved whether they were strong enough to stand against an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim sat alone in his office looking at the empty shelves. He had spent decades collecting items from different alien cultures, gifts from diplomats, souvenirs from peaceful negotiations, symbols of cooperation between species. Now all of it was packed away. The embassy was closed. All Earth personnel had evacuated from Council space except for Agent Sora and a few others who had volunteered to stay behind. His communicator chimed. A message from his daughter, Hyejin. She was 15 and safe on Earth with her mother. "Dad, everyone at school is scared. They say the aliens are going to attack us. Is it true?" Hyunwoo stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Yes, it's true. But remember what I've always told you. Being afraid is okay. What matters is what you do with that fear. We can let it control us or we can use it to make us stronger. Humanity is strong, Hyejin. Stronger than the Council knows. Don't be afraid." He sent the message and stood up. Through the window of his office he could see Earth in the distance, a blue jewel against the darkness of space. His communicator chimed again. This time it was from Admiral Min-ji. "Ambassador, you should see this. The Council fleet has been spotted. They're heading for Terran. How long? 4 hours. Maybe less." Hyunwoo took a deep breath. "Then it begins." "Yes," Min-ji said quietly. "It begins." In the Terran system, Captain Ji-hoon Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the sensors. His 47 ships were spread throughout the system, hidden among asteroids and gas clouds. They waited in silence, their weapons powered down to avoid detection. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple contacts at the edge of the system," his sensor officer reported. "It's them." Ji-hoon felt his heart rate increase. "How many?" "Counting now." 287 ships confirmed. Still more arriving. 300 ships, just as Agent Sora had reported. Counselor Yalmara stood on the command deck of the flagship Eternal Authority, watching the Terran colony grow larger on the view screen. Around the massive vessel, 287 other council ships moved in perfect formation. "Scan the system," Yalmara ordered. The sensor officer worked for several minutes before responding. "The colony appears mostly evacuated, Commander. I'm detecting minimal life signs. Only a small defensive fleet remains. 47 vessels, mostly light frigates and escort craft." Yalmara felt satisfaction flow through it. The humans were running just as expected. They had left behind only a token force, probably hoping to delay the inevitable while their colonists escaped. 47 ships, Yalmara repeated, against nearly 300. Do they think this is courage or just stupidity? "Should we offer them terms, Commander?" asked the communications officer. "Send a standard surrender demand. Give them 10 minutes to respond." The message went out across all frequencies. The human ships would hear it clearly. Surrender now, or be destroyed. Simple. Clean. The way the Council had done things for thousands of years. On the Indomitable, Captain Jihoon Park listened to the Council's demand in silence. His crew waited for his response, their faces tense but determined. "Captain?" his communications officer asked. "Should we reply?" Jihoon thought about Ambassador Hyunwoo's message to the Council. "We will not negotiate." He thought about the 15,000 colonists who had been evacuated from Terran, forced to abandon their homes because of Council arrogance. "No response," Jihoon said quietly. "Let silence be our answer." "Sir, they're moving into attack formation," Lieutenant Yuna Song reported from the fighter bay. "Should we launch?" "Not yet. Wait for my signal." Jihoon watched the tactical display. The Council ships were spreading out, surrounding the colony, preparing to demonstrate their overwhelming power. They moved slowly, confidently, like predators that had already won. They had no idea they were moving into a trap. Commander Sunwoo, Han stood at the tactical station, watching the enemy fleet's movements with sharp eyes. He had been studying Council battle tactics for years. They were rigid, predictable, based on formations that hadn't changed in centuries. "Captain, they're positioning themselves exactly as predicted," Sunwoo reported. "They're spreading their fleet thin to surround us completely." "Good," Jihoon said. "The wider they spread, the harder it is for them to support each other. Are the platforms ready?" "All weapons platforms are armed and awaiting your command. Hold position. Let them get comfortable." On the Eternal Authority, Yalmara watched as its fleet completed their encirclement of the pathetic human force. The small ships hadn't moved, hadn't responded, hadn't done anything. They just floated there, waiting. 10 minutes have passed, Commander," the communications officer reported. "The humans have not responded." "Then they have chosen destruction," Yalmara said. "All ships target the human vessels, fire on my command." Throughout the Council fleet, weapons powered up. Energy cannons that could vaporize a city block began to charge. Missile batteries locked onto targets. 300 ships prepared to unleash devastation on 47. "Fire!" Yalmara commanded. The space around Terran colony lit up with weapons fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human ships, and that's when everything went wrong for the Council. "Now!" Jihoon shouted. Throughout the system, hidden weapons platforms came to life. Dozens of concealed batteries disguised as asteroids and debris opened fire. But they didn't use energy weapons. They used something the Council had forgotten about: kinetic weapons. Railguns firing solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles carrying nuclear warheads. Primitive weapons by Council standards. Weapons they had banned centuries ago as barbaric and unnecessary. The Council's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, offered almost no protection. Metal slugs tore through them like paper. Nuclear explosions bloomed across the fleet, radiation washing over ships that had no shielding for such attacks. "What is happening?" Yalmara shouted as alarms began blaring throughout the Eternal Authority. "How are they penetrating our shields?" "Commander, the weapons they're using. They're kinetic, solid projectiles. Our shields aren't designed to—" An explosion rocked the flagship as 3 railgun slugs punched through the shields and into the hull. Yalmara grabbed onto a support beam to keep from falling. "Return fire!" All ships returned fire. But the Council fleet was in chaos. They had spread out to surround the humans, and now they couldn't support each other effectively. Ships were exploding all around them, hit by weapons they didn't understand, attacks they weren't prepared for, and then the human ships moved. "All ships execute attack pattern Delta," Ji-hoon ordered. The 47 human vessels suddenly came to life. They weren't running away. They were attacking, but they didn't attack like the Council expected. Instead of forming up into a proper battle line, the human ships scattered. They moved fast, dodging between asteroids and debris, refusing to stay in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. "They're using guerrilla tactics," Sunwoo called out. "Hit and run, just like we planned." The Indomitable dove toward a Council cruiser, firing railguns and missiles as it approached. The cruiser's shields flickered and failed under the kinetic barrage. Before the larger ship could respond, Ji-hoon's vessel was already moving away, disappearing behind an asteroid. Throughout the system, other human ships did the same. They struck, fast and hard, then vanished before the Council could coordinate a response. "Launch fighters," Ji-hoon ordered. Lieutenant Yuna Song led her squadron out of the Indomitable's fighter bay. 20 small craft, each piloted by a human who had trained for years for this moment. "All wings, follow my lead," Yuna called out. "Target their engines and weapon systems. Make them blind and crippled." The fighters were tiny compared to the massive Council ships. But that was their advantage. They were too small and fast for the large weapons to track effectively. Yuna's fighter screamed toward a Council dreadnought, weaving through its defensive fire with skill born of countless hours of practice. She launched 2 missiles at the exposed engine section and pulled away hard, feeling the G-forces push her back into her seat. The missiles hit home. The dreadnought's main engines exploded, leaving the massive ship drifting and powerless. "Target destroyed," Yuna shouted. "Moving to next target." All around her, other fighters were doing the same. They moved like angry insects, stinging the giant ships again and again, too fast to swat away. On the Eternal Authority, Yalmara watched in growing horror as the battle fell apart. Ships were exploding. Others were disabled and drifting. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking from unexpected angles, using weapons and tactics the Council hadn't prepared for. "How many ships have we lost?" Yalmara demanded. The tactical officer checked his displays, his face pale. 63 destroyed, Commander. Another 47 heavily damaged. Over 100 ships out of action in less than 30 minutes. It was impossible. It was a nightmare. All ships, pull back. Reform at the edge of the system. But pulling back wasn't easy. The fleet was scattered, ships trying to respond to threats from every direction. Human vessels hunted them as they retreated, picking off damaged ships, preventing any organized withdrawal. Ji-hoon watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Council fleet was breaking apart, their perfect formation shattered, their confidence destroyed. "Captain, they're trying to retreat," Sunwoo reported. "Don't let them reorganize. All ships, maintain pressure. Push them out of the system." The battle continued for another 2 hours. The Council fleet finally managed to pull back beyond the range of the weapons platforms, but the damage was done. They had lost over 130 ships. The humans had lost only 12. Yalmara stood on the damaged bridge of the Eternal Authority, staring at the casualty reports in disbelief. This was supposed to be a simple demonstration of power. Instead, it had become a disaster. "Commander, what are your orders?" the tactical officer asked quietly. Yalmara looked at the view screen, where the human ships still patrolled the system, guarding their colony. Small ships, primitive weapons, but they had beaten the Council's finest fleet. "We return to Nexus Prime," Yalmara said, the words bitter. "The Council must know what happened here." As the battered Council fleet began its long journey back to headquarters, Ji-hoon received a transmission from General Do-yeon. "Captain Park, that was brilliant work. The entire galaxy is going to hear about this." Ji-hoon looked around his bridge at his exhausted crew. They had done the impossible. They had faced an enemy with 6 times their numbers and won. "How many did we lose, General?" 12 ships, 843 personnel. But Terran colony is safe, and the Council knows now that humanity will fight. Ji-hoon felt the weight of those 843 deaths. They were not numbers. They were people. Crew members he had known, friends, comrades, but they had died protecting something important. They had died proving that humanity would not surrender. What happens now, sir? Do-yoon's face was serious. Now the real war begins. The council won't make the same mistakes twice. Next time, they'll come with everything they have. Then we'll be ready, Ji-hoon said. Across the galaxy, news of the Battle of Terran spread like wildfire. The council. The video played on every screen in the galaxy. A young human woman sat in front of a camera, her face serious and determined. Her name was Ji-won-bae, and she was about to change everything. My name is Ji-won-bae, and I am an independent journalist from Earth, she began. For the past month, I have been investigating the Galactic Council. What I found shocked me. What I found will shock you too. She had been working on this story for years, gathering evidence, conducting interviews, documenting the truth. Now, with war breaking out, it was time to reveal everything. The Council tells you they bring order to the galaxy. They tell you they protect peace. They tell you that their rule is necessary for civilization to survive. Ji-won paused, looking directly into the camera. They are lying. The broadcast continued for 20 minutes. Ji-won showed documents proving the Council had been exploiting member species for centuries. She revealed how they suppressed technological development to maintain their advantage. She exposed corruption, theft, and deliberate sabotage of independent worlds. Most damaging of all, she showed records of the Council destroying species that had become too advanced or too independent. Entire civilizations erased because they had dared to challenge Council authority. The Battle of Terran was not about human aggression, Ji-won concluded. It was about the Council trying to crush a species that refused to be controlled. Humanity said no, and now the Council wants to punish us for our independence. The broadcast ended with a simple message. The truth can no longer be hidden. The time for change has come. Within hours, the video had been seen by billions across hundreds of worlds. The Council tried to suppress it, but it was too late. The message had spread too far, too fast. On Nexus Prime, Counselor Thexnell watched the broadcast with growing fury. Around the council chamber, other counselors sat in stunned silence. This is a disaster, one of them said quietly. If the other species believe this, they will rebel, another finished. After 10,000 years, our authority will collapse. Thexnell stood slowly. Then we must act decisively. We must show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us. We must destroy Earth completely. That will only prove the human journalist correct, someone argued. It will prove that we are still powerful. Thexnell snapped. Fear will keep them in line. It always has. Counselor Yalmara entered the chamber, still recovering from the defeat at Terran. Its appearance shocked the other counselors. The proud warrior looked diminished, humbled by the loss. Mobilize the full fleet, Thexnell ordered. Every ship, every soldier. We will take Earth itself. When humanity's homeworld falls, the galaxy will remember why the Council is feared. How many ships? Yalmara asked. All of them. 1,500 ships. We will not fail this time. While the Council prepared for total war, Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim sat in a secure meeting room deep beneath United Earth Command. On the screens around him were the faces of representatives from 6 other species. They were taking an enormous risk by being here. If the Council discovered they were meeting with humanity, their worlds would face punishment. But they had come anyway. Thank you for answering my invitation, Hyun-woo said. I know the danger you face. One of the aliens, a reptilian creature from a species called the Torvan, spoke first. We have watched the Council oppress our people for 3 centuries. When we saw what happened at Terran, we realized something. The Council is not invincible. Another alien, this one from an aquatic species, added, Your journalist's broadcast showed us what we already suspected. The Council rules through fear and lies. It is time to stand against them. But standing costs blood, Hyun-woo said honestly. If you join us, the Council will attack your worlds too. They already attack us, the Torvan replied. Slowly, quietly, through economic control and political manipulation. At least this way we fight back. Over the next several hours they discussed strategy. Earth could provide weapons technology. The other species could offer resources, information, and additional ships. Together they might stand a chance. How long until the Council attacks Earth? One of the aliens asked. Our intelligence says 2 weeks, Hyun-woo replied. They're gathering their full fleet. 1,500 ships. Silence fell over the meeting. 1,500 ships was an overwhelming force. Even with allies, humanity would be outnumbered 3-1. We will send what forces we can, the Torvin said. Perhaps 200 ships in total from all our species. That still leaves us facing 1,000 more than we have, someone pointed out. Yunwu nodded. I know, but Admiral Minji has a plan. Dr. Yunji has been working on something special. We have one surprise left for the Council. Far from Earth, on a secret base hidden in an abandoned system, Dr. Yunji Lee stood in a massive testing facility. Around her, engineers monitored equipment that would have seemed like magic to the Council. Status? She asked. Her assistant Daehyun checked the displays. The quantum disruption field is ready for deployment. We've run simulations 1,000 times. It works. Yunji studied the device in front of her. It looked simple. Just a small satellite with unusual power signatures. But its effect would be devastating. Explain it to me one more time, she said. In simple terms, Daehyun smiled. Council ships use quantum reactors for power. The reactors are incredibly efficient, but they're also vulnerable to specific frequency disruptions. This device generates a field that destabilizes those reactors. What happens to the ships? Their power systems begin to fail. Shields drop. Weapons stop working. Life support struggles. They don't explode, but they become basically helpless. They have to shut down the reactor completely and restart it, which takes hours. And our ships use fusion reactors. Completely different technology. The field doesn't affect us at all. Yunji nodded slowly. How many of these devices do we have? 50. Enough to cover the entire space around Earth. Once we activate them, any Council ship that enters the field will be crippled. But they'll figure out what's happening eventually. Sure, but by then, we'll have evened the odds considerably. Yunji looked at the device. This small piece of technology that might save humanity. Load them onto transport ships. We need them in position around Earth before the Council arrives. General Do-hyun Shin stood in a command center on Mars, coordinating the defense of Earth's solar system. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris that could hide a weapon had been turned into a defensive position. Sir, the Allied fleet from the other species has arrived. His tactical officer reported. 214 ships. They're taking up positions near Jupiter. Good, send them my thanks. And make sure they understand the battle plan. The plan was risky. When the Council fleet arrived, Earth's forces would appear to defend normally. But at a critical moment, they would activate the quantum disruption field. The Council ships would lose power. And that's when the combined human and Allied forces would strike with everything they had. How are the evacuation efforts going? Do-hyun asked. All non-essential personnel have been moved to the outer colonies. Earth's population is down to 2 billion, mostly military and essential workers. 2 billion people still on Earth. If the plan failed, if the Council broke through, those people would be at the mercy of an enemy that had none. We can't fail, Do-hyun said quietly. No, sir, we can't. On Nexus Prime, Agent Sora Kang continued her work. She moved through the station carefully, gathering intelligence, watching the Council's preparations. She had seen the massive fleet assembling. 1,500 ships, the largest military force the Council had deployed in over 1,000 years. They were taking no chances this time, but she had also seen something else. Doubt. Fear. The younger Council species, the ones who had only recently joined, were questioning their orders. Jiwon Bei's broadcast had shaken their faith in Council authority. Sora filed her reports regularly, sending detailed information back to Earth. Fleet movements, weapons loadouts, command structures, everything that might help. She knew she probably wouldn't survive the coming war. Once the fighting started, being a human agent inside Council space would become impossible. But that was okay. She had chosen this path knowing the risks. One more week until the Council fleet departed for Earth. One more week to gather information. One more week to help humanity prepare. Dr. Minho Kwan sat in his office at Earth's Xenoanthropology Institute, reviewing his research. He had spent decades studying alien psychology, trying to understand how different species thought and acted. Now his work had become crucial to the war effort. Understanding the Council's mindset would help predict their actions. They rule through intimidation, he explained to Admiral Minji in a video conference. Their entire system is based on the belief that they're superior. That belief is their strength and their weakness. Explain, Minji said. Because they believe they're superior. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations. They rely on what has worked for thousands of years. When something new happens, something they haven't seen before, they struggle to respond effectively. Like kinetic weapons at Terran. Exactly. They had forgotten about such primitive technology. It caught them completely off guard. So we keep surprising them, Minji said. We keep doing things they don't expect. Yes, but there's another aspect. Their authority is based on fear. When that fear is challenged, the Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 1,500 warships, the largest military force assembled in 1,000 years, hung in the darkness like a swarm of angry metal insects. On the bridge of the flagship Universal Order, Counselor Thexnal studied the tactical displays. Earth gleamed in the distance, blue and beautiful and vulnerable. Scan for defensive forces, Thexnal ordered. The sensor officer worked for several minutes. I'm detecting approximately 400 human vessels throughout the system, Counselor. There also appear to be additional ships of unknown origin, possibly 200 more. 600 ships against 1,500. Better than the Council had expected, but still not enough. Send the final ultimatum, Thexnal said. Let them hear our terms one last time. The message broadcast across all frequencies. Surrender completely. Hand over all military assets. Accept permanent Council occupation, or Earth would be destroyed. On Earth in the command center beneath the Himalayan mountains, Admiral Minji Choi listened to the ultimatum, with a face carved from stone. Around her, hundreds of officers and staff waited for her response. Send our reply, she said simply. The response went out across the galaxy. Just 3 words that would echo through history. We refuse always. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stood beside Minji, watching Earth's defense fleet move into position. They really thought we would surrender, he said quietly. They still don't understand us, Minji replied. They think survival is the most important thing. They don't understand that some things matter more than survival. Like freedom. Like freedom. She turned to her communications officer. Send the message to Captain Jihoon. Tell him to begin. Throughout the solar system, the human fleet activated, but they didn't charge forward in a heroic last stand. Instead, they began pulling back, retreating toward Earth. On the Universal Order, Thexnal watched the human ships fall back with satisfaction. They run, the counselor said, as we knew they would. All ships advance. Sweep them from the sky. The Council fleet moved forward like a tidal wave of metal and fire. Their sensors showed the human ships continuing to retreat, apparently panicking, trying to reach Earth's defensive platforms. What the Council didn't notice were the 50 small satellites hidden among the asteroids and debris throughout the system. Satellites that were now powering up, generating a field that expanded through space like an invisible net. Captain Jihoon Park watched his tactical display as the Council fleet entered the trap. Now, Doctor, he said quietly. On a secure ship near Mars, Dr. Yoonji Lee pressed a single button. The quantum disruption field activated. Throughout the Council fleet, power systems began to fail. Shields flickered and died. Weapons went offline. Life support systems struggled. Ship after ship found their reactors destabilizing, forcing emergency shutdowns. What is happening? Thexnal shouted as alarms blared across the flagship. Why are our systems failing? Unknown, Counselor. The reactors are becoming unstable. We're having to shut them down. Across the fleet, over 1,000 ships suddenly became helpless, drifting without power. Only the ships at the very edge of the formation, not yet fully within the field's range, remained operational. All ships, attack! Admiral Minji's voice rang out across the human fleet. The retreat had been a trick. Now the human and allied ships turned and charged into the crippled Council fleet like wolves into a herd of sheep. Lieutenant Yuna Song led her fighter squadron straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Without shields or defensive weapons, the massive Council ships were helpless against the small, fast craft. All wings. Target their weapon systems and engines. Yuna called out. Make sure they can't fight even after they get power back. Her fighter danced between the enormous vessels, firing missiles at exposed systems. Around her, hundreds of other fighters did the same. The Council ships were like sleeping giants being stung by wasps, unable to defend themselves. Commander Sun Woo-han coordinated the capital ship attacks with brutal efficiency. Focus fire on their command ships first. Take out their leadership and they'll fall apart. The Indomitable and dozens of other human warships tore into the Council fleet. Railguns punched through unpowered shields. Nuclear missiles created blooms of destruction. The space around Earth became a killing field. But while the main battle raged, Captain Jihoon had a different mission. With 10 of the fastest human ships, he had bypassed the Council fleet entirely. They moved through the confusion, heading away from Earth, jumping to faster-than-light travel as soon as they were clear. Their target was Nexus Prime. The Council's headquarters station had been left nearly undefended. With the entire military force committed to the attack on Earth, only a skeleton garrison remained. When Jihoon's small fleet arrived at Nexus Prime, they found exactly what they expected. A few patrol ships, station defenses designed to handle pirates and criminals, but nothing that could stop a determined military strike. Broadcast on all frequencies, Jihoon ordered. Let everyone in the galaxy hear this. His communications officer nodded and opened the channel. Jihoon began to speak, his words transmitted across the galaxy. This is Captain Jihoon Park of the Earth Defense Fleet. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council has ruled from this station. They claim to bring order and peace. They claim to protect civilization. His ship moved closer to the massive station, weapons armed but not firing. Yet. But the truth is different. The Council has ruled through fear and lies. They have suppressed species who became too advanced. They have stolen resources and technology. They have destroyed any who dared to resist. Inside Nexus Prime, Agent Sora Kang was broadcasting her own message from the Council's main communication center. She had been waiting for this moment, had positioned herself perfectly. Now she released everything, every document she had gathered, every piece of evidence of Council corruption and abuse, 10,000 years of crimes all revealed at once. The Council's authority is built on a foundation of lies. Jihoon continued. Today that foundation crumbles. Today the galaxy learns the truth. Back at Earth, the battle was turning into a massacre. Over 800 Council ships had been disabled by the quantum field. Those that still had power were trying to retreat, but the human and allied forces pursued them relentlessly. General Do-hyun Shin coordinated the ground-based weapons, adding their firepower to the space battle. Massive railguns launched projectiles from Earth's surface, each one accelerating to incredible speeds before striking Council vessels. Counselor Thexanal sat on the darkened bridge of the Universal Order, watching everything fall apart. The mighty Council fleet was being destroyed. Nexus Prime had been captured. The galaxy was watching their defeat in real time. Counselor, we must retreat, the tactical officer said urgently. We've lost over 1,000 ships. The battle is lost. Thexanal wanted to refuse, wanted to order the fleet to fight to the last ship. But even through the shock and denial, the Counselor could see the truth. They had lost. Completely, utterly lost. Signal the retreat, Thexanal said quietly. All ships that can still move, withdraw. The surviving Council ships began to flee. Some jumped to faster-than-light travel immediately. Others limped away at slower speeds, damaged and barely functional. The human fleet pursued them to the edge of the solar system, then stopped. There was no need for more killing. The message had been sent. As the last Council ships vanished into the distance, Admiral Minji stood in the command center, looking at the casualty reports. Humanity had lost 97 ships, 3,200 personnel. Each number was a person, someone's child, parent, friend, but they had given their lives to protect Earth and they had succeeded. Admiral Captain Jihoon is reporting from Nexus Prime, her communications officer said. The station has surrendered. Agent Sora has seized the main communication center. They're broadcasting evidence of Council crimes across the entire galaxy. Minji nodded slowly. Tell them well done, and bring our people home. Across the galaxy, billions watched the broadcast from Nexus Prime. They saw the evidence of Council crimes. They heard Captain Jihoon's words. They understood finally that the Council's authority had been a lie. On dozens of worlds, revolutions began. Council governors were overthrown. Resistance movements emerged from hiding. Species that had been oppressed for centuries suddenly found the courage to stand up. The Council's empire didn't collapse all at once. It took weeks, then months. But the end was inevitable. Once the fear was gone, once the truth was revealed, there was no going back. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stood in a new chamber. Not the old council hall, but a place built for a different purpose. Representatives from over 100 species gathered here, each one equal, each one free. We call this the Galactic Federation, Hyunwoo explained to the assembled species. Not a council that rules from above, but a true federation where every member has a voice. Where decisions are made by consensus, not force. A Torvan representative stood to speak. You humans defeated the council. You could have taken their place. Why didn't you? Hyunwoo smiled. Because we didn't fight for power. We fought for freedom. Taking the council's place would just create the same problems all over again. What happened to the old councilors? Someone asked.